Well, ladies and gentlemen, today is the day. It is time for the 2025 Canadian election. We have Pierre Poilievre against Mark Carney, with Carney, the Liberal, as the favorite going into election day as voting is open. I do want to say, guys, make sure you like the video down below, and I will be streaming the Canadian election result tonight, maybe at 5 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, sometime tonight. But this video is focused on Donald Trump and his message to Canada. And once again, you can say, well, it's a troll, whatever. He's coming out saying he wants Canada to be the 51st state. Good luck to the great people of Canada. Elect the man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power for free to the highest level in the world. Have your car, steel, aluminum, lumber, energy, and other businesses quadruple in size with zero tariffs or taxes if Canada becomes the cherished 51st state of the United States of America. No more artificially drawn lines from many years ago. And so Trump is making his pitch again for Canada to join the United States, kind of having some fun there, not really endorsing either liberal or conservative because neither of them want to join the United States. We know that. But you could say this is a slight endorsement to Carney because this type of rhetoric from Trump has resulted in the past of liberals improving in terms of the polls. And Trump has said, although when politicians or leaders comment on other elections, they tend to be very disingenuous in terms of who they root for. But Trump said that he does want Carney to win because he thinks he'd be easier to deal with. And the dynamic there is, when you're dealing with conservatives and you're trying to get, let's just say, a better trade deal, conservatives may be harder to negotiate with because they're a lot more, as we've seen with Canada, they've taken the whole Canadian first moniker. Not that it really matters because they're still moderates, but the idea is liberals are more open to a globalist sense of trade, relationship, giving more. Not that it really matters. I mean, this is Canada in terms of their population. They are like a feeder state to the United States. Whether it's Poilievre or Carney, it really shouldn't matter. But this is just Trump's message talking about how joining would be all positives with no negatives. And there would be some positive things. There's no doubt about it. What I ponder is, let's just say Carney wins. I think he probably will with minority seats. I want to get an update on this right now, though. So we'll just take a look at the recent update. This was last night. It was at 78-22. Now it's 79-21. So it really hasn't changed. And so you have this is who wins the majority in each province and territory. These three territories only have one seat total, but you do have Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba possibly going to the right. When it comes to these colors, the blue is conservative in Canada. The red is liberal. That's why obviously on Quebec, Ontario, who have tons of seats, going to go liberal majority there. There's no doubt about it. Along with those other eastern provinces, Manitoba right now looking like most seats will go conservative. Saskatchewan, all pretty much a lot of them going conservative. Same thing with Alberta. We know Alberta is the most conservative province in Canada. But if this ends up happening, you can see how they project it to play out. This is a minority rule by the Liberals with 169, but you do have the New Democratic Party. You could be looking at a coalition between them and the Liberals to get majority rule. As we've seen the recent polls indicate from 4 or 5 months ago, a lot of the people within the New Democratic Party are voting for Carney and the Liberal Party to keep the Conservatives out of power in Canada. That's just the dynamic. And you can say, well, within the last 4 or 5 months, it's because Trump and his rhetoric, he's caused this. You forced Carney to win. And honestly, I mean, if you think about it, if we just play this out to where Carney does win, we are immediately shifting focus, at least to a degree, on Alberta and what happens there in terms of them potentially seceding from Canada. And if they did that, there would be undoubtedly some type of economic deal with the United States. I don't know if they just want to be independent to where we can protect them. To be honest, if you just look at Alberta, they really don't need a ton of protection just because who's going to invade them even if they became independent? They're just surrounded by a lot of uninhabitable land and a bunch of rural areas. You've got the United States. Anything happens, things would happen to other territories or provinces before anything happens to Alberta. And it's not like Canada would invade Alberta, even if Alberta did secede. So, and by the way, this is another thing to where you wonder if the citizens of Alberta angle for a better situation within Canada if the Canadian government negotiates with them, if they vote on a referendum to leave, and based off of if you go back to what happened in Quebec in the 90s to where they almost left, it does have to be a pretty sizable majority. So let's just say it's 60-40, 60% say they should leave. Now, whether that means join the United States or become independent, I don't know. But let's just say that happens. Their government could negotiate with Alberta to give them a better deal in terms of the ability to extract resources within their own province, in terms of not giving all the money that they're giving to Eastern Canada. And so there could be things like that, removing the carbon tax and so forth. We know how important natural gas and oil is in Alberta. So Alberta becomes the one to watch. When it comes to Trump with this blanket, oh, we want all of Canada, it's just not feasible because of the way they vote. They're extremely liberal. Yes, they tend to turn on a dime, but it's just more of a moderate sense. Like the United States compared to Canada, the Republicans within the U.S., we would be considered pretty far right. And even if you go back to the 2024 election straw poll, Canada had, like they did a straw poll in Canada on Kamala against Trump. Kamala got 64%. Trump was at 21%. The rest were like third party or not interested. So it's very liberal. So we don't really want Canada. This rhetoric from Trump is just, and I know somebody finally asked him about like, hey, it's probably not a good idea. They're going to be very liberal. He said, well, I don't know about that. You know, he just kind of sidestepped the question. But maybe Trump shifts his focus to Alberta because of how much of a powerhouse it is in terms of possibly allowing the United States to become energy independent because of the gas and oil that they have access to. And so that's the dynamic of, I know the lawyer that really kicked off this movement, this Alberta secession movement, said he was going to go to D.C. I don't know if that ended up happening, but we could get Trump's rhetoric change if Carney wins from, well, we want all of Canada to maybe we want Alberta and Saskatchewan. And so that's something that might happen. But just in terms of this, the stuff that I'm hearing, it does look like Carney will win. I know there are a lot of conservatives that say, no, it's not going to happen. It's a psyop. It's polling. But this is a pretty sizable lead in terms of the betting. It's a sizable lead in terms of the polls to where Carney's up by around 4 or 5 points. It's like 44-38, give or take, 44-39. And then the other party's getting the rest. But you're seeing people from the New Democratic Party shift and vote liberal and vote for Carney to keep the conservatives out. That's just the reality of the situation in Canada. And so Trump gives his message, which, again, you could argue is a slight endorsement to Carney because this type of rhetoric has caused a lot of Canadians to go more liberal. And to be fair to Poilievre, people keep criticizing him. He's in a no-win situation. You're a conservative in Canada. I mean, I wouldn't say no-win because there is a yearning for new leadership there to where the Liberals have been so bad and Trudeau was so bad, you could kind of swoop in and win. But the problem is you're a conservative, but you're not as conservative as the superpower to the south of you, and the leader keeps talking about annexing your country, and so they say, well, you're conservative, you're just like him, we don't want to vote with him, we're going to galvanize against him, and then you have Poilievre who says, no, I don't like Trump either, and then that makes him look weak to where now Americans don't even want to support him. So see the dynamic of, and not that it matters if Americans support him or not, but the rhetoric is just so hard because you're dealing with a liberal country. It's like it's a square peg into a round hole trying to win as a conservative in Canada. You have to be very moderate. It has to be the right circumstances. Maybe it was, and then Trump said, well, we have all this rhetoric, the trade war that's going on with the tariffs, which they've used, the liberals have, as like this crazy existential threat is what they call it. They've tried to drum it up to make it this terrible like World War III scenario to really up their votes. And so that's another thing that's happened as well. So when it comes to this election, my thoughts is that I think Carney wins probably with minority rule, and then the focus shifts to what does Alberta do? Do they have a referendum? Do they even make a focus group to have the referendum? Would they consider leaving? Would Trump start shifting his focus from, oh, we want all of Canada with these statements to where he's joking about the 51st state. He's saying you can remove all the taxes and everything like that, have the number one military in the world, to just focusing in on Alberta as a state, which would be, what is it like, 4 electoral votes, 4 or 5 electoral votes? Oh no, it's 8 electoral votes. That's right. Saskatchewan is 4 electoral votes. Alberta, based on their population, would be around 8 electoral votes. And I think it would be conservative. I know people have said, well, no, they'd still be liberal. It's hard to say. I think it's mainly election based with Alberta. It's not this crazy like Louisiana conservative state though, but I do think they would tend to be more conservative. Maybe similar to Ohio. You know, they call themselves the Texas of Canada, but obviously they don't have anywhere close to the population of Texas. But either way, that's just the story when it comes to the Canadian election. This is Trump's statement. And guys, that's going to do it for this one. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.